Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the DFS Army Killshot podcast. I'm Kyle Marley. With me this week is Narco Cop, and we're going to break down this UFC Orlando card for you guys today. You guys can find Narco Cop on YouTube at Narco Cop MMA or on Twitter at Narco Cop. He's busting drug dealers by day, cashing tickets by night. Thanks for coming on the show, Narco. How you doing today, and how you feeling about this card?
Thanks for having me, brother. Not busting any more drug dealers anymore. I'm retired. But I am busting the bookies, though. I'll tell you that of late. So I'm doing that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this card, man. 15 fights on a fight night card with a decent main event here. Some very, very well-matched fights. I really like this card for a fight night.
Nice. Yeah, me too. I think it's a really good one. I'm going to be traveling for this card, so I don't even know if I'll be able to watch it. It'll probably be like on my phone if I'm able to, and I won't be able to late swap like I would like to. So I'll probably go a little bit light in general, but I saw you got some plays on this card. Looking forward to hearing your breakdowns. And this is my first time doing a podcast with you, so I'm just looking forward to it in general. I know the people like you, so let's jump right into it. First fight of the night, we got Yasmine Waregi minus 305 against Estela Nunes plus 255. Typically, I like my curtain jerkers on DraftKings, but this is one I'm looking to avoid, man, because I just expect a 3-round striking match where the winner's just not going to make the optimal lineup. But how do you see this fight going down? Who do you like in this one, Narco?
Yeah, so initially, looking at this line here, I think it's a little wide. And the reason why I say that is Yasmine is going to give Estela Nunes the fight she wants, right? The fight she wants is a stand-up fight, a girl that doesn't grapple, because that's where she's not comfortable. She's not comfortable when she gets taken down. She's not comfortable on her back. She has no idea how to get up when she's on her back. And, we saw that against Sam Hughes, right? She's piecing up Sam Hughes for about 7.5 minutes, lighting her up on her feet. And then she subsequently gets taken down and has no idea what to do after that. Sam Hughes takes her down at the end of that. She almost finishes at the end of the second round. Then in the third round, she does the same thing, takes her down, and it's basically over at that point because Estela Nunes, like I said, she's not very good on the ground. We see she got choked out by Carnelossi. Her other loss to Angela Lee was an anaconda choke. So, defending submissions, she's not very good. On the feet, a very good striker, to be honest. She's a good kickboxer, has good hands, has some power in her hands. And Yasmine is just going to give her that fight because she's a boxer herself. The difference here, and a major difference here is Yasmine has very, very good cardio and Estela Nunes doesn't. So for me here, I do see a finish, honestly, in this fight, and I think it comes a little later. I think it comes when Estela Nunes starts slowing down because Yasmine is not going to slow down. She's going to keep up that high pace, a lot of striking. She might even mix in some grappling. I've seen it in a regional scene. It's smart for her to do that. But honestly, I like the under 2.5. I like the Yasmine side because of mainly the cardio advantage here. Big cardio advantage. And I think it's competitive early, but Yasmine starts pulling away. And I think she might stop her actually late in this fight. So give me the Yasmine side. DFS on this fight, I'm not laying, a 9,300 price tag on a girl that might get a late round finish. I don't think she's going to get a finish early. So I'm staying away from the DFS side on this fight.
Yeah, I like that whole breakdown. And I would agree, just at 9,300, Waregi is just too expensive. Like, she has to get a finish, and more likely an earlier finish, because her UFC debut was a very exciting fight. But it was a striking match for 15 minutes, and she only scored 65 points in the win. And I don't see this being a whole lot different if she's not going out there looking for takedowns. So even if she did get, a third-round finish, she's only adding another 15 or so points to what she had, and that's still not going to cut it. So I think the only way you're playing Waregi this weekend is because she's going to be under 10% owned or so, and you're not going to have to compete with much of the field if she can go out there and get an early knockout, or maybe she looks to grapple here. She's only 23 years old. She looks like the real deal to me. I think she is the better striker of the two, but they're both really good strikers. And you mentioned the line's probably a little bit too wide because if this is a 15-minute striking match, I don't think Waregi looks like a minus 300, minus 350 favorite here because Nunes is very good, especially early in the fight. But I just like Waregi all around as a fighter, so I will be picking her to win. But as I mentioned, I don't think I'm going to have enough lineups this weekend where I'm going to get to any Waregi. And then I think Nunes at all, if she's at all playable, it would be in cash games, just as a super cheap punt who could get 30 points in a 15-minute loss. I don't hate that. But overall, this is a fight. I'm looking to just X out of my lineup, out of my player pool, because with 15 fights on the card, I want to narrow it down somehow. And this is the way I'm looking to start off the card by doing it. Get rid of these two, look for higher ceilings, but give me Waregi to get the win in this one. And I'm looking forward to her future, but I think she'll be in the UFC for a long time. Next one on the card, we got Francis Marshall making his debut at -155 against Marcelo Rojo, +135. Marshall looked pretty good on the Contender Series. He had 6 takedowns in that fight, I believe, about 6 minutes of control time, 110 significant strikes, I want to say. So he would have scored over 90 points in DraftKings fight, which is pretty good. He's priced at, where's he at this weekend? 8,800. So you really need him to score over 90 this week. But I think this is a good matchup with Rojo, who is somewhat a killer be killed fighter. 14 of his 16 wins have come inside the distance, and like 6 of his 8 losses have come inside the distance. So just as a whole, I like this fight for GPPs. Not a fight I want to trust these guys in cash games, but who do you like here, Narco Cop? And is this a fight you'll be targeting heavily on DraftKings?
So initially, I'm leaning Rojo, honestly. Francis Marshall, looking back at him, I do a lot of Contender Series stuff. And honestly, his hands did not look very good prior to Contender Series. He kind of impressed me where his hands look much better. He's leveled up his striking. But the problem when you look at Marshall in that fight, right? That first round is very sketchy, right? He gets hurt there a little bit. It's very, very competitive. You could have possibly given that first round to Connor Matthews, who's never been out of the first round, right? What happens after that first round? Matthews falls off a cliff in the cardio. He's completely dead tired, and Marshall takes advantage of it, like completely dominates him the rest of the fight. But I think that's the problem is I think the domination comes because the lack of cardio on the Matthews side. When you look at this fight here against Rojo, and yeah, Rojo doesn't have the best takedown defense. He hasn't looked very, very good in his fights in the UFC, but look at the competition. I mean, Charles Jourdain, Kyler Phillips, guys that would probably run over a guy in Francis Marshall. These guys are very, very good. And not to mention, he fought down at 135 against Kyler Phillips, which to me, he can't fight there, man. This guy's gas tank is completely zapped at 135. He's too big for that weight class. I think the right weight class for him is 45 here. And when you look at Charles Jourdain fight, like it's 1-1 going into the third. Competitive fight. And then Charles Jourdain does what Charles Jourdain does and takes him out in the third. I just can't see a reason why I want to lay juice on Marshall. I know he's got decent wrestling, but man, this is a huge step up in competition. Even though, people are down on Rojo, I'm not as down as people, make it out to be. He's got good leg kicks. He's got good power, pretty good striking from this guy. Yeah, this only fault is his takedown defense is not very good. But again, he faced 2 guys that are levels better than Francis Marshall here. So for me, it's basically dog or pass here. I haven't got to the number yet because I don't really like that low number on Rojo. But as far as DraftKings is concerned, I guess you might be able to play Marshall because of the takedowns. But I'm interested in that price tag on Rojo, to be honest. 7,400. I think he does have power. I think Marshall gets hit a lot. You saw it against Matthews. And I think, Rojo is a better striker than Matthews. Like, he's got good calf kicks. Has a good kicking game overall. So for me, I'm leaning Rojo here, to be honest, at this price tag.
I'm glad to hear you say that. I am on the Rojo side as well. I just feel like the 6-0 is not good enough to be on the Rojo level. Rojo's not great, but he's not bad. And he hung in there with 2 really good fighters in his 2 UFC fights. I think he's going to give this kid the vet lesson and give him, I don't know if it's going to be first or second round, but I just see him getting a finish at some point, whether it's a knockout or a submission. And if he does get a finish early in this fight at 7,400 on DraftKings, he's got a good chance of being on the optimal lineup. As I mentioned earlier, 14 of his 16 wins have come inside the distance. If it happens again here, he's just going to be on the nuts. So I like Rojo. He's somebody I'm looking to be overweight on this weekend. I'm not looking to trust him in cash games. I just don't think he's reliable enough or good enough for that. But this is a good GPP fight to target. And for me, it's more so on the Rojo side. I wouldn't mind some exposure to Marshall just because he's a good wrestler. And that's his best chance, in my opinion. His best chance to get a win here is to go out there, look for takedowns every round, rack up control time on the ground, which would score well. I just would rather target the other heavy favorites. And with limited lineups this week, I doubt I get to Marshall. But I also wouldn't talk anybody off him if you're higher on him than we are. But I'm on your side, man. Let's go Rojo. I think he gets the finish in this fight and scores well.
What I will say is I really like
Next
the over
one
1.5.
Over 1.5? Okay.
Yeah, over one.
Then hopefully
I mean,
it's a second round finish for you.
Let's see where the price is right now. Yeah, see, I got it at 150 and it's kind of juiced up now. So yeah, at this price at 180, I'm not touching it. But yeah, I kind of feel like the fight goes over 1.5. Rojo is durable. Marshall actually seems to be durable, to be honest. But I could see Rojo stopping him late.
I don't hate that at all. Even if he does finish it late, though, at 7,400, he's still going to pay off his price tag. So any win for Rojo, I feel like is going to be good enough on DraftKings. Next one on the card, we got Natan Levy, minus 195 against Gennaro Valdez, plus 165. And this Valdez guy, just in general, we're going to want to target his fights on GPPs because he's a wild man. He's either looking to take his opponent's head off or looking to take them down and hunt for a rear naked choke. But all of his wins have come inside the distance. He does not look like a 15-minute minutes winner to me. But if he's going to go out there and finish fights early like he has been, he's going to score well on DraftKings. So I got to like Valdez as an underdog. But Levy just looks like the more polished striker. He looks like the better wrestler to me. And I think he's going to be the one that finds the rear naked choke at some point in this fight. And I just don't expect most Valdez fights to go the distance. But Levy landed 9 takedowns in his last fight. He doesn't even need a finish to score over 100 points on DraftKings. He had 120 in that last win of his. So I just like this fight as a whole. Again, I mean, I'm picking Levy to get the win. He's my preferred play of the two. But Valdez has a ceiling that a lot of people on this card, a lot of underdogs on this card can't match. So I have to get exposure to him as well. And if I need to save the money, like even if I'm making a single entry, I don't hate going down to Valdez if that's going to get me up to these other favorites that we really like, because there's not many cheap underdogs that I love, but I really want to hammer that 9K range with the favorites. So I'm going to be on Levy's side, but I'll be targeting this fight heavily as a whole in GPPs. How about you, Narco? How do you see this one going down?
Yeah, pretty much agree with you. I think this is a fight to target. You mentioned Gennaro Valdez, another Dana White's Contender Series, kill or be killed type of fighter. I mean, you could have, some trash, fighting experience or even be really bad, but have some power. And you somehow have a chance against this guy, Gennaro Valdez, because, we saw the Alaska FC guy, and we know those guys are pretty bad when it comes to talent. And Patrick White was literally landing bombs on Gennaro Valdez in the Dana White's Contender Series fight. And, props to Valdez. He came back, he took some big shots, came back and put out White. And I mean, this guy is just that, man. He's going to sit there and come forward. He's going to slug it out. But the thing is, I like Levy here. I think he's the more skilled fighter everywhere. He's the better striker, in my opinion. He's got very good kick game, very good ground game, in my opinion, that he hasn't really showed much in the UFC. But I think his ground game is really, really good. I've watched a lot of tape on Gennaro Valdez, and he gets his back taken a lot. The other thing, to be honest, and I've watched a lot of these regional stuff, I'm very low on Lux Fight League. I mean, he fought there, I think, once or twice. I don't think those guys are very good in that organization. And here, Levy, I just feel like he's the stronger fighter. He's the better striker. He has the better grappling. I honestly see a submission here for Levy. I think he takes this fight to the ground and eventually subs this guy that makes a ton of mistakes on the ground. He gives up his back. This is not a spot he wants to give up his back. So I like the Levy side. I just can't get to this price. Just because Valdez is such a high variance fighter, man. He's going to come in there, slug it out. And we saw Levy get hurt against Mike Breeden. And Breeden kind of did what Valdez is going to do here. He pressured him. He threw a bunch of wild strikes. Like, he made it a wild fight. And I think Valdez is going to do something similar here. This fight just, it's an under fight. But I favor the Levy side. And as far as DraftKings, I think you can get to both sides. Like you said, I like both sides here. I think they can both cover that price tag if one or the other wins.
Yeah, this will be a fight that I am looking to throw money into the pot, just hoping to get the right combination on this fight because I think they both have 100+ potential. But I will be more so on the Levy side, I would think. But I haven't built lineups yet, so I really don't know how it's going to work out. I might end up with more Valdez exposure. I'm not sure, but this is a fight that I want in, more than half of my lineups, probably closer to like 70, 80% in total. But yeah, give me Levy to get a submission. I like that as well. All right, next one on the card. We have a real close one. Pick 'em fight. Amanda Rebas versus Tracy Cortez, both -110. Oh, man. I want to hear you break this one down. How do you see this one going down? Because I really don't have a lean on this one.
Yeah, me neither. I really don't have a play here. I mean, you could see it's basically at pick 'em here at -110 a piece. But I kind of lean on the Cortez side. And the main reason is she's a natural 25er. Rebas is moving up from 115. Cortez has a good wrestling game. She's got a decent amount of takedowns at 25. And now she's going to face a girl that's, moving up to 25. I think the strength advantage is going to be on the Cortez side. And I think strength in women's MMA is a big thing here, especially when there's going to be grappling. And Cortez is going to go for takedowns because that's the only thing she knows what to do is basically get the fights to the ground, right? The other thing I really like with Cortez is that she's at fight ready, man. I think that camp right now is the best camp in MMA, in my opinion. I think they have the best game plans in MMA as far as their fighters are concerned. So Tracy Cortez here, probably going to land takedowns, probably going to get some top time. But the thing is, it's a slippery slope down there with her because she's going to be against Rebas. And Rebas, I mean, she's very, very good on the ground. She's very slick. So she's going to probably have opportunities to maybe get a submission here. We saw in the last fight against Melissa Gatto. Melissa Gatto had a lot of favorable positions, but somehow she made mistakes and Tracy Cortez turned on top when Melissa Gatto had her back. And I don't think those mistakes are going to be done by Rebas if Rebas has her back. So for me, I kind of lean Cortez here. I think the strength advantage is going to be there. I think she's going to land takedowns. The thing is, I do favor Rebas on the feet. I don't like Tracy Cortez on the feet. She doesn't have very good striking. But yeah, as far as DraftKings, this 8,082 price tag here, I think this fight goes the distance. I don't think there's going to be a lot of points scored here. I'm probably just going to completely fade this fight, to be honest.
Perfect. Glad to hear that. I am fading this fight as well, trying to narrow down a 15-fight card as much as I can. And since I don't have a lean on this card, I don't want to throw money into the pot on this one on both sides, hoping to get the right combination because they both might not even hit 10x in a win here. That's kind of how I see it going down, is that it's so close and back and forth that the winner scores in the 70s or something like that, because I don't see it being 3 rounds of success for either one of them. I do think Cortez has the style with her wrestling to win 2 rounds against almost anyone in the division, but I think Rebas has the potential to have that same success, and she's the better striker, as you mentioned. I think she's the more dangerous grappler. Cortez she has 8 wins of her 10 are by decision. So I would expect another decision win from her. And that's what she's been doing in the UFC, and it's been scoring in the 80s. And I just don't think that's going to cut it. So she really needs 3 rounds of wrestling success here to make the optimal lineup. I'm going to hope that it's too close for either one of them to do that. And I'm just going to X these 2 out of my player pool. I don't really see it biting me too hard, but if it does, man, then just so be it. I don't want to invest in this fight scoring 100+ points when there's so many on the card that could. So let's fade it and hope we're right. But overall, I'm picking Rebas in that one, though, as my pick because I just think she's the more skilled fighter all around. I just think it's a split decision type fight either way, though. So no lean for me. Next one on the card, we got Scott Holtzman minus 165 against Clay Guida plus 140. Both these guys are getting up there. I think Holtzman's like 39, Guida's 41. I see most of this fight playing out on the feet, so it's another one I do not like for DraftKings, but they both have wrestling potential. I think that's Guida's best path to win this fight is to get it to the ground, and if he does, he can score well at his price tag, so he's probably my preferred play. The guy I'd rather have in cash games. He could even put up 30, 40 in a loss, and that would be fine. But I think Holtzman's the guy with the finishing potential, so he would be my preferred GPP play if I had to play this fight. But this is another one. As I mentioned, I'm just going to try and get away from it. I prefer not to have either one of these in my lineups, and I see Holtzman winning a 15-minute striking match. Maybe not all of it being on the feet, but I don't see more than 1 or 2 takedowns being landed in this fight. And if Holtzman's the one winning the striking, I don't see why he would want to look for takedowns. So how do you see this fight going down, Narco?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with some of your points. I don't think it's going to be on the feet for 15 minutes. I think just because when I go back and I try to like look at, Holtzman and who he's fought and who I can compare Clay Guida to, right? And the person that sticks out the most is Nick Lentz, right? Nick Lentz landed 5 takedowns against Scott Holtzman there. And Nick Lentz basically was doing what Clay Guida is going to do, is throw strikes to try to push Holtzman back to the fence so he can shoot for a takedown. And he was successful. He landed, initially, I believe in the first round, he wasn't very successful. But as the fight went on, I think he landed more and more takedowns as Holtzman was tiring a little. And we know Guida can go 3 rounds and grapple and try to get takedowns. And I do think he's going to land takedowns here. The problem is on the feet, he's got a big disadvantage here against Holtzman. I think Holtzman still has very good power. He's got good striking. He's got a good kicking game. He's just a much better polished striker than Clay Guida is. And the thing here is, like, if Guida doesn't get this fight to the ground, I think he's going to be in big trouble on the feet. Like, he's going to probably eat some nice shots. He's 40 years old. I know he's pretty durable, but man, at 40 years old, like, your durability starts going away, and it starts going away really quick. And, he hasn't been knocked out for a while, but, even though you haven't been knocked out for a while, once you get up in there in age, I mean, you can get knocked out. So for me here, I'm staying away. I'm not picking a side here because I do see success for both guys in, as far as, if it gets to the ground, I see success for Guida. And then if it's on the feet, I also see success for Holtzman. So for me, I'm completely staying away here. But on a DraftKings perspective, I kind of lean the Guida side here at 7,600 because I do think he can have some success with getting takedowns. And Nick Lentz, as the fight went on, he got some control time there against Scott Holtzman. So I could see the same thing for Guida. So that's how I lean. I lean Guida here as far as DraftKings is concerned, but money line and to pick a winner, I probably lean a little bit on the Holtzman side just because I think he's a little bit of the fresher fighter here at this point in his career.
All right. Yeah, I don't hate that. And I do think that if Guida wins this fight, he's got a chance to score. He probably does score over 10x, but he could score, 90 plus. So I don't hate that play. And if I had to use this fight, I guess I would rather just save the $1,000 and put him in there. I won't X them out of my player pool, but for me, this would be like the 6th spot in my lineup, like based on having 0 salary remaining. And this fits perfectly right there. I'd be Mario. But I really just don't see me clicking on their names when I'm going to hand build, to be honest. All right, next one on. We got Jonathan Pierce minus 450 against Darren Elkins plus 360. Man, I like Pierce in this one. I like Pierce basically every time he steps in the octagon because he's a high-paced, heavy wrestler, heavy grappler. He's pretty good on the feet too, but what we like on DraftKings is the guys who can go out there and land 6 takedowns, control the fight for 10 minutes, throw 200 strikes on the ground. And Pierce is that kind of guy. I like him a lot early in this fight. But, man, Elkins will never slow down. If he can weather the early storm and come back and win this fight late, that's his path to victory, in my opinion. I don't see him getting it done. I'm taking Pierce in this one. Who do you like, Narco?
Yeah, I mean, I like Pierce. I think this is a terrible matchup for Elkins. Elkins usually out-grapples, outpaces most of the fights that he wins. He's not outpacing Jonathan Pierce. Pierce has similar, if not better, cardio. Guy grapples for days. The damage is getting damaged lately, man. I mean, look at the fights that he's won, right? We go back and we look, and I mean, Derek Minner, if he's not an idiot, he was so close to finishing that fight. You know, the other look with Tristan Conley, like Tristan Conley hanging with you, this guy's not a UFC fighter. You know, he went just now when he fought in the BFL, which is in Canada, and lost to a guy that was 500. So Tristan Conley is not a good win, in my opinion. Then, you know, the Derek Minner win has a big, big asterisk next to it because Minner basically let him off the hook. Then you got Cub Swanson just absolutely destroying this guy. What I want to see here is Jonathan Pierce is going to push a pace. He's going to land takedowns, in my opinion. He's going to be the stronger guy because this guy is huge for 45. And when he gets on top, I think he's going to land some nasty ground and pound. And what does happen? What do we know with Elkins? Like, he gets cut in every single damn fight, blood everywhere. And I think he's going to get bloodied here very bad by Pierce. I think this is a great matchup for Pierce. I think it's a young, up-and-coming prospect versus a guy that's going out the door. I mean, these odds are honestly, they're probably warranted at minus 450, 500. I'm not laying them because I never do. But under 2.5 at minus 130 is insanity to me in this fight. I think Pierce rolls through this guy. You know, inside the distance for Pierce is the reason why I'm not playing it's because it's minus 105. Why not just play minus 130 and get both sides? Because you never know what happens in a fight. But minus 130 under 2.5, sign me up for that. And
I like that.
I mean, I'm sorry. And DraftKings, like 9,500 is so hard to play. Like, even though I think he finishes, I don't think he finishes very early, to be honest. So I probably won't pay that 9,500 price tag on Pierce, even though I think he finishes here. And I'm honestly not touching Darren Elkins in this spot because even though he's at 6,700 and the guy has known to come back, this is a terrible matchup again for him. So I'm staying off of Darren Elkins completely.
Yeah, I'll fade the Elkins side most likely. He has scored, I believe it was 117 and 122 in his last wins, but that's when he's going out there and dominating the grappling game. I just don't see that being the case against Pierce. If he does win, he's probably going to score well, so I wouldn't talk you off the Elkins side if you see that happening, but I'm going to be on the Pierce side, and I do like him on DraftKings at 9,500. I think he is my favorite play on the slate if I can afford it. Just because he hasn't scored less than 94 in a DraftKings fight, in a DraftKings win, that is. And mostly he's scoring 120, 140. I think that is in play. There have 3-4 takedowns and a finish in the first round. So I think he has one of the highest ceilings, top 2 highest ceilings on the slate, in my opinion. So he's on the quite a bit. I also like RDA, who we'll talk about later, and he's up there.
You're cutting
also. So
in
I
and
feel like
out.
you're gonna have to make a choice between those two. So give me side up on him, and the finish. I'll take him to win in the round.
Kyle, your screen is going in and out, like you're freezing completely.
Am I good? Am I back now? Hopefully I'm back because I don't know what to do if the internet goes out.
Yeah, you're a little you're back. You're a little better here now.
All right, cool. Yeah, I've been closing out tabs. I don't know why my internet's acting like this right now, but hopefully it'll stay good to go. All right, next one on the card. We got Nico Price minus 140 against Phil Rowe plus 120. I think we're going to need a finish in this fight for them to score 100+ points, but I think the knockout's in play on both sides. So I'm okay with either side of this fight. If this fight does go the distance, I don't see either one of them making the optimal lineup, though. How do you see this fight going down? I don't have a real lean in this one, so I more so just leaned with the underdog in Rowe because I'd rather hold an underdog ticket in a split decision type of fight, and that's kind of how I see it going down. But do you see this one going differently?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think this fight is close, but I honestly see a finish one way or the other. I don't know where the finish is going to come from because, you know, Nico Price minus 145. I never want to play this guy at juice because he's not a very smart fighter. He goes in there, balls to the wall, just eating shots, throwing shots. He's not a guy that has a game plan, to be honest. And that's what concerns me with Nico Price. Like, he's juice, and you're going to pay juice for a guy that really just doesn't have a game plan when he comes into fights. He just wants to outpace some people, maybe, take some shots to give some shots. He's one of those guys. And the one thing I will give him here is I do think he has better cardio than Phil Rowe. Phil Rowe looks to slow down as the fight goes on. I think Phil Rowe doesn't have the durability that Nico Price has. What I would look for here is, honestly, Nico Price round 3 props are probably good props to play, because even though when you look at Nico Price, he's got 15 wins and he doesn't have many wins in the third round, if any. But he does come on a lot in that third round, and he finishes very, very strong. And when you look at Rowe, he kind of fades to me in the third round. I mean, even though you look at his record and he has third round finishes, when you watch his fights, like, he's fading. He's getting tired. He was very tired in the Koski fight too before he finished. I just lean Nico Price as far as cardio here, but also think he could get killed here because Phil Rowe has good power in his hands. He's very, very damn long. The one X factor here that I want everybody to look for is Phil Rowe eats a ton of calf kicks, and Nico Price throws a ton of kicks, guys. Go back and look at his stats. He throws a lot of kicks, and they're very, very hard. So I could see him really buckling those twig legs of Phil Rowe and maybe hurting him. And that's going to hamper Phil Rowe because he needs movement. He needs movement in this fight. He needs to stay at range. And if he doesn't get that, I think Nico Price is going to be well on his way for a win. As far as DraftKings is concerned, I kind of like this fight in general, man. I think this ends one way or another. We got what's the price tags here? Oh, 8,400 and 7,800. Yeah, I definitely think they both can be 10x here in this spot here. So yeah, I mean, both guys are fine. I'm just not touching this money line, and I'm just gonna play the violence prop here.
All right, yeah. We got minus 250. Fight doesn't go to a decision. They're both priced right there in the mid range, so I can definitely see this fight killing me if I don't have exposure to it. So I'm definitely okay with either side of this fight. I would just prefer the Rowe side because he's cheaper. He's an underdog that I picked to win. But overall, I'm just kind of hoping that it goes to a decision because I don't see the winner making the optimal lineup there because it won't be a fight I'm targeting heavily. If I get this fight, I'm probably only making 20 lineups, I would guess. So I would guess that I only get, 1 to 3 of each of these guys in my lineups this weekend, which will kill me if they go out there and get 100. So let's go decision. All right, next one on the card, we got Mark Deakisi minus 305 against Michael Johnson plus 255. I think if this is a striking match, then it'll play out a little closer than the line indicates. But Deakisi is going out there and landing 19 takedowns in his last 2 fights and becoming DraftKings gold out of nowhere. And I think that's a good style for him. If he can go out there, do that again, then he has a path to scoring well on DraftKings. But if he goes out there and wins a striking match, he's just not going to score enough to pay off a $9,200 salary. So for me, it's going to be, I'm okay with some Deakisi exposure, but I'll probably want to stay around field weight. He's not a guy I'm looking to get leverage on like I would with Pierce. I feel like Pierce is good for 100 plus points in any win, where I don't feel that same way about Deakisi. But I think you're on the contrarian side, if I'm not mistaken, on this fight. Do you like Michael Johnson in this fight, Narco?
Yeah, I mean, I lean Johnson here just because, Deakisi has landed a lot of takedowns, but against who? These guys have terrible takedown defense. 2 of the guys that are probably some of the worst takedown defense in the division. People forget, like, Michael Johnson was one of the top JUCO wrestlers in the whole nation. Guy has pretty good wrestling, and he's over there at I believe he's at Stanford still, or whatever it's called now. I forgot the name, but he's facing very good wrestlers in camp. I think his takedown defense is pretty good, man. My only concern is, like, as he gets tired, is he going to be able to defend the takedowns from Deakisi? But when it comes to striking, he has the much better hands here. Yeah, the other concern is Deakisi has very good kicks, and I'm a little concerned with Michael Johnson eating those kicks, but the hands are much more polished with Michael Johnson. When Michael Johnson is on his game, go back and look. Like, this guy has, beaten some of the best fighters, like Dustin Poirier. I love Beneil Dariush, but he probably lost that fight against Michael Johnson. And Michael Johnson defended every one of his takedowns in that fight, I believe. So if he defends takedowns here, I am going to feel very, very good about plus 240, plus 250, because I think he's going to look like the favorite. And I think this is a lot of recency bias baked into this line, honestly. Like, you're going to be paying 300, 340 on Deakisi because he's gotten 19 takedowns against two of the worst guys with takedown defense. I'm not sold on, Deakisi being a wrestler that he's looked like of late. So for me, I'm on the Johnson side. Plus 240. It's blown out even more now. I wish I would have waited. I didn't think it was going to blow out to 260, 250. I like that price tag. DraftKings, he's 7,000. So if he wins, he's probably going to be optimal, 10x. I don't see like him knocking out Deakisi. I don't think, because Deakisi seems like he's very, very durable. Because when you look at the Fiziev fight, he took some big, big shots in that fight. But Michael Johnson has a lot of power in his hands. Don't get me wrong. Like, he drops a lot of people. I just think Deakisi is very durable. So with that being said, I'm definitely not touching Deakisi at 9,200. I know a lot of people probably will, because they're going to look at the stats and they're going to say, oh, 19 takedowns. Whoa, this guy's got to be, easy 10x. But I don't see it here, to be honest. So I'm on the Michael Johnson side, and probably on him for DraftKings. But I'll be probably very, very low on him.
Solid. I do think Johnson is the value side on the money line. As I mentioned, if this is a striking match, it's going to look a lot closer than those lines than the line indicates. And you could be right. It could be Johnson that looks like the favorite. He has the better boxing, the faster hands. He's got power in his hands. He could get a knockout. I don't see him having 90 plus, 100 plus point potential unless he gets the knockout. But as an underdog at 7K, you don't need that. You can go out there and score 75, 80 points and possibly make the optimal lineup. So I'm not against that, and I would not expect to see 9, 10 takedowns from Deakisi in this fight. I am picking Deakisi to get the win, though, because I just see it being a close striking match that he can just put a stamp on rounds with the takedown or two, and that's how I see it going down. I can see him landing, 3 takedowns in this fight and winning 2 rounds by grinding out 3 minutes or so of top control time. So I went with Deakisi, but the line, in my opinion, is too wide. So good luck to you on that play. But I'm fine with either side on DraftKings. If I had to use one of them in one lineup, I'd rather go ahead and just take Deakisi for his wrestling potential, because he does have 100-point potential in a decision, where I just don't see that being the case for Johnson at all. All right, next one on the card, we got Emily Decody minus 120 against Angela Hill plus 100. I think the wrong fighter's favored in this one. I think the line should be flipped. I did think Decody looked good in her UFC debut, but that was a striking match against Jessica Penne. I don't think it's hard to look good in a striking match against Penne. And I just feel like she's a little bit too flat-footed, a little too slow. Hill's got more experience. I think she'll be moving around the cage a lot more. She could throw at a high pace, just as we saw Decody do. So I'd rather have the experience on the Hill side. But overall, it's not things, because it probably is a 15-minute striking match, 90 points. So give me Hill. How do you see this one going down, Narco?
Yeah, I'm staying off this fight completely. I think maybe line is about right, just because when you watch some of Decody's fights, like, she does take the fight to the ground. I believe she's a black belt on the ground. She's pretty good down there. She just doesn't use it much. She's got a very, very good kicks, though. I'll say that. Angela Hill can be kicked. And Decody has really, really good calf kicks and stuff like that. So her striking looked really good in her last fight. But again, you mentioned, like, against Penne, a lot of people might look good. But Angela Hill, like, I know she's looked pretty good of late. I know she had a big win lately against Lupita Godinez, who, just decided not to grapple for whatever reason against Angela Hill. She decided to make it a striking match, so which was really weird. But she's 37 years old, and you know, the one thing here is like age matters to me. I know she's the more experienced fighter, but my God, 10-year gap. I think Decody is a little bit more fresher here. I think she has more of the power in the striking here. Angela Hill is more of a volume, touch you type of fighter, but she does have good clinch work, which I like from Angela Hill, which I won't deny. So overall, for me, it's a pass completely on the money line. And honestly, it's a complete pass also on DraftKings. I don't see much grappling. I don't see much finishing ability on either side. So it's a complete stay away for me here.
Yeah, I'll try to avoid this fight on DraftKings as well. It wouldn't shock me to see the winner go out there and get 85, but I just don't think that that's going to cut it on a 15-fight card. So, yeah, let's just hope that it goes to a decision. It probably doesn't matter who wins if that's the case, but give me Hill. I'll be rooting for her since she's an underdog. I'm picking to get the win. Next one on the card, we got Jack Hermanson, minus 180 against Roman Delise, plus 155. This one's not on DraftKings yet, but there's a missing slot, so they'll just slide them in right there. I think 8,700 and 7,500 or something like that. But this is another play or another fight I was looking to hear your breakdown on. We are on the same side of it, but I feel like you're going to be a little bit more confident than I am. So let's go ahead and hear your breakdown first. Who do you like in this one, Narco? How do you see it going down?
Yeah, I like the Joker here. I mean, I got in at 166. Lines moving pretty quickly here. It's just a huge advantage as far as experience. Big step down for the Joker as far as, you know, I'm not talking about Chris Curtis, but we're talking about the other fighters like Vettori, like Sean Strickland, like Cannonier. Delise, you know, his wins have just been really, really weird of late. You know, Haas, we know he doesn't have a chin if his life depended on it. Kyle Daucus just like it was a weird knockout where he hurt Daucus and then caught him with a knee in the clinch. Those things to me are just not replicable because when you go back and look at his other UFC fights, like Lawrence Staropoli was kind of competitive, right? He lost to Trevin Giles. He went to split against John Allen. Like those guys are nowhere near the level Jack Hermanson is. So here, like, if Hermanson has the way better cardio, in my opinion, here. Grappling, I think Hermanson's the better grappler here. Like, I know, you know, the other guy's an ADCC guy, but all he does is go for heel hooks and leg locks. Like, that's just not going to work against Jack Hermanson. If he's on top of you, he's probably smashing you with big elbows. And the other thing, like I mentioned, big cardio advantage here for Jack Hermanson, man. Delise really slows down when it comes to the third round. Hermanson, I think, can get a finish here, either in the late second or early third. Like, but I think a finish is in store here for Jack Hermanson, probably a little later in this fight as Roman Delise slows down. So for me, I really like Hermanson, even at an 8,700 price tag. I think he finishes here. I like Hermanson, you know, minus 166, 180 in that price range. And I even like Jack Hermanson a lot round 3, man. Round 3 by KO is plus 3,300. I don't know what these bookies are thinking, but I'm definitely playing a nice chunk of that at plus 3,300 by KO in round 3 because I really believe he can smash him if he gets on top in that third round as Roman Delise slows down.
I'm sold. I like all that. I do think Hermanson's just the more skilled fighter everywhere in this fight for as long as the fight lasts. I would just give the power edge to Delise. I mean, if Delise win, it's gonna be like a moment, a flash moment where he's gonna score well if it's early in the fight, and if it's late in the fight, he's probably not gonna have enough work leading up to that to score well. So you're relying on a first or second round finish for Delise to have any real ceiling, in my opinion. But I would rather just fade that and take the more skilled fighter who, as you mentioned, man, if Hermanson gets on top, it could be, you know, breaking the slate. He could go out there and score 130 points. We've seen him do that in the past. I see Hermanson winning a decision, so I'm not as high on him as you are on DraftKings, But I think you probably sold me on an extra 5 or 10% ownership on the Hermanson side. I just think everything you said is correct. And if he does go out there and get a third round finish, he probably does have enough scoring leading up to that to where he can compete for the optimal lineup. So I agree. Let's go Hermanson. I think he can make it look fairly. Just watch out for the big power on the Delise side.
One more thing, Kyle, very important. We're saying Delise doesn't have very good cardio, and he's coming in on short notice. That's a big thing because he didn't have a full camp here.
Sure, I wasn't even aware of that, to be honest with you. So yeah, even more of an advantage against a guy who does not have cardio. So yeah, really knockout or bust, maybe submission or bust for the Delise side. But give me the more skilled, the more experienced guy who's been beating better competition. So I like that one. Next one on the card, we got Kyle Daucus minus 215 against Eric Anders plus 185. It's another underdog. I like the Anders side of this one. I think the line is a little bit too wide. I do think that Daucus is the better grappler of the two, and he could go out there and get a submission in any round. But that's the way he's going to look over minus 200, in my opinion. I don't think he has a clear edge on the feet. Maybe he's the smoother striker, but it's not knocking Anders out. Anders is the guy with power here, and I think volume-wise it'll be close. And I think Anders is the better wrestler of the two, so maybe he could dictate where the fight takes place. And if Daucus is not getting on top of him, I think this fight's going to play out closer to a pick'em. So I'm picking Anders to win a split decision in this one. I do think he's in play just because he's cheap. He could score around 10x in a decision, especially if he's landing a takedown or two throughout the fight. But I also think he's in play for a 9. That gives him 100-point ceiling. So I like Anders in this one, and I think it's submission or bust kind of on the Daucus side at his price tag. How do you see this one going down? You think I'm wrong?
No, I'm on the Anders side as well. I'm mad at myself for playing him at 170. He's up to 190, so I'm getting negative CLV on these past two fights. But, another guy, Eric Anders, moves to fight ready, right? And what does he do in his last fight against Jung Young Park? Like, that's a tough matchup. Jung Young Park is good everywhere. Very good takedown defense, very good striking, very good cardio. And he implements this game plan of wrestling, right? Wrestle, wrestle, wrestle. How many freaking takedown attempts? I don't have it in front of me, but how many takedown attempts did he go for in that Jung Young Park? Do you know, Kyle? Offhand? I do not know. Let me look it up. Let me look it up real quick. Okay, 24 takedowns. 24 takedown attempts in that fight. He went 3 for 24. Now, he didn't do well. But if he goes for 24 takedowns against Daucus, he's getting him down a good number of times.
Yeah.
Because Jung Young Park has very good takedown defense, like I said. And I think the one thing you see with Kyle Daucus where he struggles is in the strength advantage. When he faced Delise, you could see he wasn't the stronger fighter. Like, Delise was clearly stronger. When he faced who was the other guy? Phil Haas. You can see Haas just out-muscling this guy, doing whatever he wants. And this is where I see Anders succeeding. He's going to be able to cage push. He's going to be able to land takedowns if he wants them. He's going to be the stronger guy. He just has to stay away from submissions when they're on the ground. On the feet, I kind of lean Daucus because I think he's the cleaner striker. But I think, like you mentioned, I think Anders has the better power here. So you're giving me all these advantages for Anders. And to top it off, like I said, fight ready, good game plan. And he showed very, very good cardio for a guy that went 3 for 24 in takedowns. He still was there in the third round. He still was doing well. So for me, I think this guy improved. That's the one thing that I took from that loss in the split decision against Jung Young Park is this guy improved. And I think Eric Anders at plus money here is just a disservice for him. I'm happy to get 170. Now I'm happy to get 190 because I'm probably going to lay a little bit more on the Anders side here. DraftKings, 7,100. I think that's a very, very good tag on him. I think he's going to land takedowns, like I said. And if Fight Ready is doing what they're going to game plan like they did against Park, then shoot. He's going to shoot for 24 takedowns. He's going to get a lot of them. So give me Anders here all the way around. I'm not touching Daucus at 9,100 on DraftKings.
I agree. Yeah, Anders or pass all around for me. I would just rather pay it for the other people over Daucus, and I'm not going to make enough lineups to where I want to be throwing him into the pot as well. So let's go Anders, and I hope we're right on that value. Next one on the card, we got probably the best GPP fight of the card with Sergey Pavlovich minus 215 against Tai Tuivasa plus 185. FanDuel has this as minus 1,100 to not go the distance. And it's like minus 110, minus 115 to end in round one. Someone's probably going to sleep in the first round, and you're going to need the winner if that's the case. I'm going to pick Pavlovich just because I think he's going to be the bigger, stronger, more aggressive guy early in this fight. But I just want this fight in basically every lineup I create, hoping that it is a first-round knockout, and I got the combination correct. Are you on the underdog, or you like Pavlovich as well, Narco?
Yeah, I'm on the underdog here. The one thing that sticks out for me here, and I think it's a big thing to see, is I don't think Pavlovich, or I don't want to say that he's not very durable, but the one time we saw him get clipped, he got put out against who was Overeem. Like, he got put out pretty bad in that fight. And then subsequently, he's beat Marcelo Gome. He's beat Maurice Green. He beat Shamil Admirmakimov, all these guys are not even in the UFC anymore. And then Derek Lewis, who we know is basically a guy that if you hit, he usually just gives up. And that's basically what he did in that fight. Pavlovich surged him. He hit him with a couple of bombs and kind of, Derek Lewis was kind of giving up. What do we see from Tuivasa? You hit him, he's not going to give up, man. He's going to throw back. We saw him hurt Cyril Gane. We saw him put out Derek Lewis. He's faced a much, much better opposition. He's the much more durable fighter, in my opinion. The guy is very, very durable. If he lands on Pavlovich, I think Pavlovich goes out. But if Pavlovich lands on Tuivasa, I don't think Tuivasa is just going to go out. That's the big difference for me here. So I do lean Tuivasa. I lean him pretty heavily. His KO prop is very interesting at plus 250 because I think this fight ends one way or another. But I just lean the Tuivasa side in general, man. I think Pavlovich is way, way overrated in this spot at this big, big minus 220 price tag. I just don't think it's warranted. What have we seen from him outside of killing basically bums? Lewis is his only good win. And we got Tuivasa competing with Cyril Gane, who's one of the best in the heavyweight division. So give me Tai Tuivasa all day here. I can't believe this line keeps going up. So I'm just waiting. I haven't bet the money line yet because I didn't want to make the mistake I did on the other two. But I'm just going to sit back and wait. Maybe I get 200 on Tuivasa, and I'll be happy.
Solid. And I'm fine with that on DraftKings. Like, I'm cool saving the money and making Tuivasa my preferred play just because he's so cheap and has 100-point upside. If he gets the first-round knockout, he is on the optimal lineup. I'm completely fine with that in single entry and 3-entry max, whatever it is, except for cash games. We're not touching this fight in cash games, and it is going to be probably the most owned fight on the card. So if you want to create a narrative to get away from it, it's that there is no knockout. If this fight goes all 3 rounds, then the winner's not going to be on the optimal lineup. It's just not going to score well. It'll be a low, slow-paced fight where they're just a little too tentative. I just don't see that being the case. I think we get a first-round knockout in this one. So it'll be in basically every lineup that I create. And I say that Pavlovich is my pick. He's probably my preferred play since I'm picking him to get the first-round knockout. But, man, if I'm throwing my RDA here's lineup, I probably can't have Pavlovich to rate in those lineups where I will target the other favorites. So I'm completely fine going if I end up with more leverage on the Tuivasa side. But either way, I'm just going to be loading up on this fight in every one of the GPP lineups that I create. Next one on the card, we got Matheus Nicolao minus 380 against Matt Schnell plus 310. Who do you like in this one, Narco? How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, another fight where I do think the line is kind of wide, to be honest. I like what I see from Nicolao, but minus 380, minus 400 for a fighter that has literally been winning by decision almost every single fight. Yeah, I know he looked good against Dvorak. He hurt Dvorak. I know he does have a very, very, very good left hook that he puts down a lot of people with, to be honest. Like, he drops people with that left hook. He just doesn't seem like he's much of a follow-up finisher when he hurts people. So with that being said, Matt Schnell is the longer fighter here. He has, I think, the better, more crisper boxing when it comes to the boxing. His punches are a lot more straighter. He's longer. And then when it comes to the grappling, I favor Nicolao a little, but, we do know that Schnell is very, very dangerous off his back. The problem I have with Schnell is, looking back at that Royval fight and the way he tapped, I mean, his hands were not even connected for that guillotine, and he's tapping with two hands. He's not even fighting the one hand that's underneath his chin. I question that a little bit. I do have some questions on him. He showed very good, very, very good comeback ability against Sumadarji, who hurt him and dropped him probably 2 or 3 times in that fight. And he came back and got the triangle choke, and he hurt Sumadarji himself. So Schnell is a kind of like a dangerous fighter. Like, he dropped Royval. Like, this guy is not a fighter that you want to bet a minus 400 against, because he can honestly finish almost anybody. So the thing is, I kind of lean Schnell here at this price. It's kind of crazy to see plus 315 in a guy that, Matthias Nicolao usually doesn't finish his fights. So for me, I'm leaning Matt Schnell here. Nicolao 9,400 is kind of crazy. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he finishes early here. I kind of favor and lean a little bit on the Schnell side at these odds and this price tag at 6,800.
I agree. The line is too wide. I picked Schnell in this fight because I thought the line was just too wide, and I would rather pick the underdog with that value than take Nicolao as my pick at like minus 400, because I would say the biggest weakness for Schnell, especially in this matchup, would be his chin. Nicolao does have power, and the only way he's going to pay off a $9,400 price tag and score more than like Pearson RDA is by getting a first-round knockout. I do think he's in play for that. I don't think he's a bad DraftKings play if you're picking him to do that. But I just think that this is going to be a very close fight if it goes the distance. And I think Schnell could out-volume him for over the course of 3 rounds. I think they're both very skilled all around. It should be a much closer fight than this line indicates. And if it goes to a split decision, whether Nicolao wins or not, you made the wrong bet if it's that close of a fight. So I'd rather take the value. Give me Schnell in this one in a fight that I do see being close, 29-28 either way. But I would always rather hold that underdog ticket in that scenario. So give me Schnell. I don't see him having the biggest ceiling. He had like 115 points in his last fight. I don't see that being the case here, but he could score 10x. He could land a takedown or 2 throughout the fight. He could put up decent volume. So I'm fine with him in cash as a cheap underdog if I need him. And then just because he's so cheap, he allows me to pay up for a lot else on the card. So I like him for GPPs as well. Let's go Schnell. I'm glad to hear you say that. That makes me feel a little bit better about it. All right, my man. Now we are on to the co-main event. We have the highest priced fighter on the card, Rafael Dos Anjos, minus 540 against Brian Barbarina, plus 420. When Barbarina wins, he scores well. He is a high-paced striker. He could go out there and knock out an almost 40-year-old RDA. If he wins, he probably scores well. I just think it's a terrible matchup for him, and I don't really want any exposure to him. I think RDA could mop the floor with Barbarina, and that is what scores well on DraftKings. So I'm picking RDA. If I can afford 9,600, I want all that I can afford. But him and Pierce are the guys that I want to pay up for. So it'll be one of them in the majority of my lineups because I see them both just getting, a complete domination and through the mat, which is what I like even more. So give me RDA in this one. You see this going any differently, Narco?
Yeah, I mean, I can't talk you out of that one because Barbarina just, he's trying to out cardio people. He's trying to out durable. I mean, look at the Matt Brown fight. I mean, that's a shell of Matt Brown. Very, very competitive fight. 41-year-old Matt Brown hurting him all over the place. Robbie Lawler touching him up and hurting him in that first round. Jason Witt beat this guy, for Christ's sake. And Jason Witt dropped this guy. If people don't, just so I can remind some people. So, I mean, RDA, I mean, what a huge step down for him here. I know this fight is being fought at welterweight at 170. Maybe that's a little bit of an advantage, I guess, for Barbarina. He's going to be maybe the little bit bigger guy here. But, I mean, RDA's fought 170 before. He's fought much bigger guys, much better guys than Chiesa and Edwards, even Kevin Lee, even Usman, even Colby Covington. He's going 5 rounds with these guys. He's probably going to tear up Barbarina out with leg kicks. I mean, leg kicks going to be probably a big thing here. He's probably going to chew up that leg of Barbarina. On the feet, he's better. On the ground, he's better. Where is Barbarina better here? That's the problem. I don't think anywhere. Even cardio, even durability. Like Rafael dos Anjos has both of those. So like, there's no advantages for Barbarina here. It's definitely RDA all day here. I'm just probably going to look to target maybe some props that I see that I like, but there's nothing. I can't bet minus 550. I just don't do it on principle. But RDA, pretty easy matchup here. He should roll.
Yeah, I mean, the only advantages I could think of are age and volume, but those probably don't matter in this fight. I would take RDA even at a lower volume. But that's the worry for me at 9,600. If he is winning the striking, then he's probably not going to pay off $9,600 if he wins a striking match here. And he could want to do that. I just think it would be a much easier path to victory, a much easier time for him if he's going for takedowns. And if that's the case, he can land 8 takedowns in this fight, control it for 10 minutes, and land 150 strikes on the ground. So I just love the ceiling for him, but I would worry about him spending a little bit too much time on the feet, which is why I would prefer Jonathan Pierce for $100 less if I'm choosing between the two. But overall, I just don't see me leaving a lot of salary on the table on this card. It'll probably be like 0 remaining to 300 remaining, and I'm going to try and squeeze in RDA and Pierce when I have the money for it.
He basically lands takedowns in every single fight. I don't think you should worry about that. The only fights he didn't land takedowns is at 170, bigger guys like Chiesa and Edwards, stuff like that. But I mean, he even took down Kevin Lee. Like, he's gonna land takedowns here. I don't think you have to worry about that. Just because the height, the reach advantage is on Barbarina, he's gonna shoot for takedowns. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I would agree. That's how I see it going down. I think he gets takedowns in every round and scores over 100, over 110 points. So if I can afford it, I love it. All right. Now we got the main event. We got Kevin Holland minus 165 against Stephen Thompson plus 140. Because we have 5 rounds to work with, I think this is going to be another great fight to target either side of. Do you have a lean in this one?
Yeah, I have a play on I got early on Kevin Holland at minus 116, but at this price now, it is a little bit of a concern. Like, at a coin flip price, I'm gonna take the younger, the up and coming, Kevin Holland, because we do know that Stephen Thompson's slowing down at this point in his career. He's 39 years old. We got here Holland. He's fighting often. He's 30 years old. He looks good. The other thing is he looks very good at 70, to be honest, even though, he lost to Khamzat. I mean, he was kind of stuffing those takedowns a little, making Khamzat really, really work early before, he eventually got him. But he's looked really good at 70. I think it's a good thing for him to go down to 70 because he was absolutely getting ragdolled at 85 by some of these grapplers. Now, we know Stephen Thompson's not going to grapple. I highly doubt he's going to grapple. The problem I have with playing Holland at like 170, 180 is Holland tends to mess around in fights like before, right? We know once upon a time, Kevin Holland was messing around in a lot of these fights. Now, leading up to this fight, he's been very friendly with Stephen Thompson. And he's going to honestly give Stephen Thompson the fight that he wants, right? Stephen Thompson wants a 25-minute striking match so he can kick you. He can do all that. The problem for Stephen Thompson is that Holland is a good striker himself, and he's very damn long for this division. And that's where I think Stephen Thompson's going to have trouble, is the fact that he's going to have to deal with this length of Kevin Holland. And Kevin Holland, if he touches you, he does hit very, very hard. And we see Steven Thompson of late, he's been getting dropped. He's been getting hurt. That's a thing that you need to look at because, Anthony Pettis knocked this guy out. Darren Till knocked this guy down. Belal Muhammad almost put him out on the ground. So durability is going away. He's 39 years old, and Kevin Holland hits hard. So for me here, honestly, I like both sides as far as DraftKings is concerned because I do think this fight probably goes to decision. I like the decision props on both sides. But as far as money line now, I'm not touching Kevin Holland at -170 just because he messes around too much. And these guys have been very friendly leading up to the fight. So I'm going anti-violence here, but, the price tags are just good enough for a 5-round fight where I can probably get to both sides.
Yeah, I think if this goes the distance, I would favor Thompson to be the striking minute winner in this fight just because he's so hard to read, so hard to hit on the feet. I do think it would be close just because Holland is so big and he's going to be landing the harder strikes most likely. I also think Holland's more likely to look for takedowns. He's the better wrestler, better grappler of the two, more dangerous on the feet. So I'm definitely cool with Holland exposure. I think if he wins, I think it's more likely to come inside the distance, which would score well. But even if he wins the decision, he could go out there and score over 10x an $8,500 salary. So I'm cool with that. But I'm picking Thompson just because I think this goes the distance as well. And I'll take him to win 3 rounds on the scorecards. Thompson winning decisions isn't something we love on DraftKings, but he was a lot more active in his last 2 wins against Neal and Luque. And if he's throwing that many strikes, he's going to score well with 5 rounds to work with. So not an all-in main event for me, but one I want in probably 3/4 of my total lineups. And I'll probably be pretty close to even on them. If I think I put in my article that if I made 10 lineups, I could see me having 4 or 5 Thompson and 3 or 4 Holland. So I'll take both guys, hoping that I can get the right combination on this one. I'm going to be more so targeting fights that I think score well instead of just picking fighters to throw in lineups this week. And this is one that I think scores well. So I'll take Thompson, but no real confidence in it. I didn't bet it yet. I do think it's getting into betting territory, but I might just sit back and enjoy this one. All right. To wrap up each card, we like to give a kill shot, which is somebody we think might go a little bit overlooked by the public, but could be on that 100K lineup. Do you have somebody in mind for this card, Narco?
Yeah, I think Eric Anders. I think Eric Anders might get overlooked here. When you look at him historically, even in his wins, he doesn't score a lot. Like he scored 81. I'm looking at here. He has a knockout that he has 105, but historically he's just not scoring a lot. But when you look at his loss to Park, and he scored 52 points in a loss, and again, he shot for 24 takedowns. That's something that you like seeing as far as playing a DraftKings guy. And if he's going to implement that game plan that I think Fight Ready might use again against the guy that has a lot less takedown defense than Jung Young Park has, then I think the takedowns are a lot more successful here. I think he gets a lot more points with takedowns here. So 7,100, I think he goes severely under owned here. And for me, that's where I'm looking at as far as DraftKings is concerned.
Hell yeah, I like it. Go Anders. And I would be fine with that one for my kill shot. But since you took him, I will go with Marcelo Rojo, somebody I think can get a finish in the first or second round. As an under, I think Tuivasa is just a little chalk to have. Be my pick for that early finish instead. Looks like I'm cutting out. Am I back? You hear me now?
No, you're good now. You're good.
Okay, cool. All right, sounds good. So yeah, I'm going with Rojo for that. But thank you for coming on the show, Narco. I appreciate it. If you have anything you want to promote, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot for having me, Kyle. Appreciate it, man. Good luck at the, what is it, King of the Beach, is it called? Good luck there.
Yes,
Hope you
sir.
win all
San
the money.
Diego. I'm leaving tomorrow.
Hope you win all the money. Good luck, my friend. Again, thanks for having me. You guys can find me at NarcoCop on Twitter, my YouTube channel at NarcoCop MMA. Every Friday, I have my Lambeau Place podcast. Me and Timothy Troiano, we give you plus 300 plays or better on each and every fight. Been crushing it week after week. Yeah, guys, that's it. I mean, thank you very much again, Kyle, and good luck at King of the Beach, man.
I appreciate that a lot. Yeah, go follow Narco Cop. He's a good capper. He's a good guy. So it's good content. Go follow him. Good luck to you, Narco. Thanks again for coming on the show. Good luck to everybody listening. Hope you guys win something. See you next time.